Yeah, can I continue after this? Really like a normal.
Hi everyone, and with hi, what's up?
How's everyone doing?
What's up?
Good.
What's good fam?
Yes, sir.
Hello, what's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's up? Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for joining today this panel. We're really happy, Grace and I, to have this conversation and to welcome all of our friends and family from around the world to discuss the evolving state of global streetwear and the role which Africa is currently playing in this ongoing evolution and regeneration. Today's panel topic is, can Africa generate the rebirth of streetwear? And we'll be running kind of like in different parts. So like it'll be kind of an introduction about everyone, and then kind of giving a context of where streetwear is at currently and where it is, where's the streetwear movement in Africa nowadays, and then discuss like a little bit about African narrative, creativity, like what it means to be a brand, like in a streetwear brand in Africa, and like what it means in terms of like originality and referencing and being inspired by the global movement, and then like discuss like what kind of are the next step and how do we collaborate and support each other as kind of one global Black community. So yeah, like I think one of the first things that we wanted to ask and wanted to start with you, Angelo, is to
just before that, let me just say two things. First of all, thank you all for being here. I think every single person on this panel has a role to play in either the present or the future of streetwear, and I'm just so happy to see like an amazing range of people of color on this panel. Like this is a beautiful sight, and we all know that in streetwear it is not really a hugely Black-owned industry, although Black culture is so prolific in it. So I'm happy to have this panel to discuss how we, as a generation, bring that forward. Secondly, I think it's so important for people to know that we have an amazing relationship with every single person on this panel, and that we have built a community over the last 10 to 15 years of like-minded people globally, and I guess that's exactly what this panel represents. It represents a moment in time that is globally happening, and everyone's going to contribute to that. I think for me, I don't want to make this about the history of streetwear. That's a completely different keynote, and there would probably be no better person to do that than Gary Warnett, our late friend. But we will talk about where streetwear is and where it's going. And I think we really have to pass the mic right now to Angelo Baque, who's the founder of Awake New York, and has been in streetwear probably for the last, at least, I'll say 25 years that I know and a dominant voice in that. And I think that the question that we want to ask you, Angelo, is like, in your opinion, how did like the underground culture that birthed streetwear and kind of like, what is the context of that? And what was the original form of streetwear as like a cultural movement from your point of view? And just a bit of insights about the work you've done and the brands that you've built.
Action, by the way, Grace, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Cool. Well, my name is Angelo Baque, and I'm the creative director of Awake New York, and I also have a creative agency called Baque Creative, based out of New York City. Look, there was never any intention to ever make money. When it comes to what is called streetwear now, it's always been, for me, youth expression. And I think that's why it was always special, because the intention was never like, how do I take this and make this into a business? It was always creating something from nothing that's very in the same essence of hip hop music and hip hop culture. So where we're at today, you know, the truth is it's become a business, and something that, you know, not to jump off topic from the original question, I think something that I've always stressed to everyone that I've spoken to in this room at some point, it's always been ownership, you know, ownership. And that's something that I think traditionally it wasn't taught to me by my elders, or to people that had companies prior to me, or anyone that came from a creative field. I think for me, like that's the most important thing that I try to teach and I try to give away with the work that I do with Awake, or the reason why I have the agency is honestly is to open up the door, or open up several doors, and to hold it open and usher more people that look like us through the door. You know, because unfortunately, bigger corporations, you know, they've played this game of, you know, divide and conquer, where they convince us that there's only one piece of cheese and we all have to fight over that same piece of cheese. That's bullshit, you know. And I, you know, besides the education, another thing that I've been stressing is solidarity, you know, and that's the beautiful thing that I love about this conversation and being included in this conversation. I think something that, you know, that we as a group, or we as a collective, is not only that there's solidarity here in this room, but, you know, also kind of pass that solidarity to wherever it is, you know, whatever community that you're a part of, you know, because the only way that we're really going to be able to move forward as, you know, as a creative, as owners, as designers, is by sticking together. You know, honestly, that's where I've seen it kind of fall short in the past, or I've seen predecessors fall short in the past, is where everyone is kind of bickering and fighting basically over nothing. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, like the reason that why I started Awake was, you know, the biggest, you know, streetwear companies are owned by white men, you know, and that doesn't make sense to me. You know, if we're, for argument's sake, at the forefront of, you know, pushing culture, creating, you know, creating trends, creating style, creating music, creating art, like how is it that we're not the ones benefiting the most from it, you know? So and I'll give you a prime example, like the last homecoming, when you asked me, you know, Grace, or Alex asked me who I wanted to collaborate with. For me, it was a no-brainer to want to work with Motherland, you know, because, for example, had I been the size of Motherland, you know, 10, 20 years ago, someone in my position would have never collaborated with me, because they're like, yo, they're not on the level, they're too small, this it's too niche, it's skate, it's this. It's like, no, fuck that. Like, I love their energy, I love what they're doing, I think what they're doing is sick. Like, why not work with each other? Why not help, you know, help them brand build, you know? So it's not only about the solidarity, but it's about all us helping each other come up, you know, helping, you know, teaching each other, like, how to, like, you know, do lookbooks, how to do campaigns, you know, how to, you know, graphic reference. Because, you know, when I was working with the guys from Motherland, we were just going, you know, we were just throwing ideas back and forth, and it was very organic and also very loving. So I don't know if that answers your question.
You actually answered all of the questions for the panel in one. But yeah, no, it's
love you, Angelo. For real, that's some real shit. Yes,
I love you guys. I love you boys, man. I love y'all. You know that.
Love you too, nigga. What you saying? That's some real shit,
I think
bro.
Angelo did a great job at setting the tone of the conversation, and it's going to cover all of that. We want to talk about ownership. We want to talk about collaboration. We want to talk about, you know, collectiveness. But just for those people that don't really know, and also, you know, Angelo, me and you, we've had, and I say Virgil and maybe a few other people on this panel, we're the old school. You know, we've been about streetwear from the early days when it was no way to buy from, you had to go to the stores, to travel the world. We were kind of talking about and seeing microcultures through streetwear. I definitely want to just let, you know, Angelo and probably Virgil just discuss a little bit of that context of, like, how important is counterculture, and what are the countercultures that built streetwear, and also what has been the biggest shift in streetwear in the last 5 years. I feel like, for instance, Angelo, when you were working with Supreme, and now our friend Virgil is at Vuitton, they did probably one of the biggest streetwear collaborations that had ever been seen. I feel like that had a huge shift in where streetwear went. So I kind of want to split that question and conversation between the two of you, just giving us a top line overview of counterculture. I was with Motherland earlier this week and we were talking about it, and there's so many references they don't know, they've not seen about the context of it. So I want to have there be a space that if any kids like them are looking back, there's a bit of a context there, and also a context with that major shift.
Yeah, that shift that happens.
Virgil, do you?
Yeah, you go first. Talk about you Supreme, and then I'll do the piggyback off that.
All right, perfect. Here's the thing: like nothing stays small forever, you know. And I think the beauty of Supreme, like the Supreme that myself, Virgil, Grace, even Alex grew up on, it was very inner circle. So by the time that collaboration of Vuitton and Supreme, like that's it. It's part of mainstream culture. It's not countercultural anymore. I mean, that was the beautiful thing about Supreme. For as long as I can't even give you how many years that it was counterculture. It felt very like you had to be in the know to know about the brand. You know, it's just not a secret anymore. And not only just Supreme, but just streetwear in general. You know, for me, it's just part of, you know, pop culture landscape at this point. Now, what encompass, you know, streetwear? Like, if we're going to talk about streetwear, then we got, you know, like, I feel like the lame title that it was given in the early 90s was urban wear, which basically it's a way for it to be commercialized, because basically like urban wear is what Black and brown people wear, right? For argument's sake. And it's always, everything always needs to be packaged in order for it to be sold. So if we're going to talk about streetwear, we got to talk about the early 90s. And it was just street culture in general, you know? So it was a hodgepodge of hip hop, skate, punk, graffiti, rock. Like it wasn't just, you know, it wasn't just hip hop, and it just wasn't punk, and it just wasn't skate. It was kind of a mixture of all these things that kind of like birth what we have today. Because there was so many, you know, like you were saying, Grace, like there was so many musical, you know, like references, whether it's, you know, it's Bjork or Fela or the Beastie Boys or Tribe Called Quest, Nas, you know, there's so much, you know, that we could talk about, the Melvins, the Ramones, you know, and you kind of have lost that, you know, that, because you can't teach that today. So I don't know if I gotten too way off track, but anyway, I don't know, you know, like
yeah. No, you laid it up. You laid it up perfectly, because the line is directly drawn from Supreme to the future. You know, like all of our careers have grown in the space of streetwear, you know, with Angelo's tenure at Supreme and now his tenure with Awake. You know, obviously I was at the Louis Vuitton Supreme show sitting in the seat. Yeah, I was sitting next to Hiroshi and James, but I was just there, like, you know, like this is an important moment because I'm thinking about all the kids on the Zoom. Like, you guys are going to take the torch as long as we put it in a good place, right? And so when Grace talks about ownership, or when Angelo talks about, like, you know, a mentor never really telling him about like protecting his IP, like you might go from 0 to 100 followers, but did you call your lawyer to trademark your logo globally, not just in your city? You're like, that's your ownership. That's your piece of the pie. That's what you deserve, because your mentors have showed you through proximity that we're the future of this industry. And quite literally, you know, last week announcing Lucien Clark as like a signed artist and skateboarder to Louis Vuitton in the means that I have was like, just, you know, doing right by the process of our culture, which is very much like what Angelo said, youth culture, connecting and building. Like I met Lucien, I met Gareth, I met Lev when I was going to Slam City trying to buy like a Tryford tee, you know, like back when it started. I loved what they were doing. And I was like, you guys incubated Lucien, a Black skater who deserves like maybe more than can fit in a traditional model of being signed. Like in my lifetime, to be able to have the power to do that, that's exactly what I think is important, not for just us, so that the younger kids on this panel know that the ceiling is beyond that. Like, you know, you'll be doing that at Dior in 2 years, or at, XYZ brand, you know, like just showcasing that our culture can grow past further than we're pushing it at itself.
Can I add something to that, Grace?
Yeah.
Now that Virgil brought up something interesting, it's true. You know, another thing. Here's the thing. Traditionally, prior to that Supreme Vuitton collaboration, it was always us looking to them for inspiration, right? Like it was cool to do like a knockoff Gucci thing or a knockoff Vuitton thing and like put our kind of spin on it. And for the first time, it kind of like switched the power dynamic, where suddenly like our energy was given into that luxury world, and for the first time they realized the power, like the power of not only youth but the youth dollar. So I think that is something that kind of like forever shifted and changed. And I think, you know, it makes sense that right after that, boom, like now V is at Vuitton, you know what I mean? And all these other things are kind of like have happened post that, like all these kind of like streetwear collaborations, even with us, like, you know, we're in our fourth year of business and we get a Montclair collaboration. Like that's not normal. Like none of this is normal. You know what I mean? Like I want you guys to understand that too. Like, and I don't know if that's a good thing, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. But you know, there's a lot of kind of like business transactions that are happening now within our world and luxury world that I think are starting to kind of normalize something that, like for example, Supreme. It took 20 plus years for that to happen.
Yeah. You guys go to the next.
Totally, and I think that leads us to like, you know, one question that I kind of wanted to ask to like Motherland or like, you know, you guys, Joey, Free the Youth. It's like, you know, like Angelo was just saying, like before the streetwear now is so like imprinted in, you know, pop culture that it feels so normal. But before, like Angelo was saying, like it's almost like the streetwear brands were inspired by the luxury brands or like the kind of more high-end brands and just doing some knockoff of it. But like, you know, one of the questions I wanted to ask is like, how do you feel you are inspired by obviously that kind of a global streetwear? Like you're almost born with that. You're born with knowing Supreme. You're born with seeing like all of these brands like being almost like, you know, mainstream. But how do you take that and make it, you know, create your own identity and make it like original in a way, like being, you know, from Lagos or being from Accra or being, you know, from anywhere else, but kind of the Western world.
You know what I think is like? I think it's like recycling, but just like using the materials you have. You know, if you see like a fucking, it's like recycling, but like let's say you see what they have. You fuck with heavy, you're seeing Supreme, you're seeing.
He's talking about referencing, it's more or less just referencing stuff.
But like referencing with your own shit. Like you see the tartan print pattern, and then you see the African print, and then you take and do the same thing, but just in your own style. Do you feel me?
It's just like if you look at the top dogs, you look at Supreme. My favorite, you look at like Fucked, you look at Awake. You see so many things like. And it's like, okay, cool. You guys have that over there, but like I haven't been over there before.
Exactly.
Like I was born and raised in Lagos. I'm just gonna take something that I know from Lagos and just spin it around and make it my own. And it's the same thing Supreme does. The same thing many brands do.
Exactly.
They all reference some old like they reference from every other thing, not only from other brands, just from life, from experiences.
You see, like Supreme took from Louis Vuitton, then we took from Supreme.
Yeah,
take it from wherever
like we're all taking it from niggas. We're taking it, and we're taking it back, and we're just all passing it. We're just taking it.
So like as we've taken it 10, 15 years from now,
someone
I'll
else
see another
take
kid that will come and knock off the Motherland logo, and I'm like, fuck yes, bro. That's
at the end of the day, it's all the same.
It's all the same thing. Just take it, tear it up, and make your own version.
Make your own versions.
And this is something that we learned from Jomi, because like Jomi would almost be like, you see this thing, I want this, but Nigerian.
And then we'll literally
that's how you make that shit fresh. Like
you just take something and then you make it your own. Like literally,
just fap it, bro. Streetwear is stealing. That is what it is.
It's all about stealing. Like all artists are thieves.
I steal. I can't tell you I'm original.
Everyone is a thief. Like everyone's a thief. No one's original. That original shit is done for.
It's not true, bro.
It's been finished.
I've been stealing on my. You see, there's this book here. That Supreme book. I scanned it scanned it, became scanned it, and then I took that template. I took the logo.
Even look at Virgil. Virgil be stealing them. Virgil be stealing.
All of us steal.
Virgil be stealing them for real.
We all steal.
We out here.
Okay. No, we're all stealing. Okay, I hear you. And I think there is a truth in that copycat kind of DIY, kind of make it your own. And I think that one thing that's important to acknowledge is that the best creativity comes from like struggle and strife and oppression, and most cultures are built from that. So you being able to do with what you saying what you can do, what you can with your means, is going to be way more creative, because I think there's two things to point out there. One, if you're really talented, it will come through. And two, I feel like what Africa has is a whole visual narrative that the rest of the world has not been exposed to. When you show me something that is from your visual references, maybe it be a texture, a textile, a book reference, a film reference, there's a whole bank of references in 54 different countries that are to be explored by the whole globe here. So you have that unique vantage point over everyone else. We've seen all the American references. We've seen all of the UK references, but we haven't seen all of the contemporary references from Africa. And that's a really important thing to know, that that's what your power is. Secondly, I want to go back to what you were saying, both Motherland and Angelo, but switch to Jomi, and Jomi to talk a little bit about, Jomi, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the first skate shop in Africa to have a store in Africa. And I can't even tell you how important that is for the whole continent. One, because we all love skate culture. Secondly, I wanted to ask you this question. How important is it been to build like counterculture and community in Africa?
West Africa.
Sorry? In West Africa. Apologies. In West Africa. Sorry about that. But how important has it been for you to build your community in territory first?
Okay, sorry. I think that
Hello? No, it's not. Jomi?
Can you hear me? Yeah, so I think there's a delay for me, but I'll just keep talking. And if you can't hear me, just because I can hear you guys loud and clear. Okay, so yeah, can you hear me? Growing up in Nigeria, when I was growing up, we're only exposed to so many limited options. And I think when I was growing up, being even counterculture was seen as being weird. So, and for a long time, I thought I was alone. So I made sure that I wanted to create an environment for people in. And I think that did a lot to build that community, because after a few moments, like-minded people started meeting each other and they didn't feel so much alone. And I mean, counterculture has levels to it as well, because from a skateboard point of view, from where I'm from, Lagos, it wasn't a thing in the beginning. It was just about maybe music, design, architects and stuff. So that was very new, but a lot of pockets of kids and people had the same, which I think is very, very important. So yeah, I think it's very important to create communities, of like-minded people, because it's just like a snowball effect. It just keeps going and going and going.
I don't know if we heard you super well, Jomi, but I think like what was the most important thing that came across from what I understood was like really the importance of building a community and finding a way to have like-minded people in your city. And yeah, I think you just delayed, bro. So
Hello?
We can hear you.
we can hear you. Yeah. Sorry, Jomi. I'm just gonna move on. So yeah, like I was saying, I think what I understood from your point was like the importance for you to create a community and like to connect with like-minded people. And I think like that's one of the main point of streetwear, right? It's like, how do you build, you know, your community becomes your identity, that becomes the thing that is the most important around your brand. So like I think that's the question that we'll have, like, you know, for Joy or for Motherland. It's like, you know, like you guys, like are important for you as it been from the beginning till now, and like to the growth of your brand, like being, you know, I know like Motherland, for example, you were part of the community with Jomi, like you were working in the store, you were in Lagos. That's how you all met each other, and now you're in London, but you still have the crew is in. So how does your community like influences you, but also like fuel your creativity and your brand?
I mean, for us, it was like when I was really young, when I was like 14, 15, my parents didn't really fuck with me because I was skateboarding, I was making designs. And like for me, that was crazy because of like, I realized that I wanted to make clothes. I realized I wanted to be a designer, a cartoonist. I realized I wanted to be an artist when I was mad young. But my dad's a reverend and my mom is a reverend's wife. Like it was quite like, they didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to be like a normal person that's either being a lawyer, a doctor, or a lecturer, like just something weird. And then eventually, like I found Jomi, and then I found WafflesNCream, that first skate shop in Lagos. And then he took me in because he saw my art. And then he was like, "You meet this other niggas and like skate with them." And from there, it was just like, I found my best friends.
Exactly, bro. It's the same thing. Like Jomi, when he made the shop, everything was done. Like that was that real shit. Like
that real skate shit. That like, real fucking skate shit. You feel me?
I met Ayeni, and then I met Leo, and then bro, my parents are Jehovah's Witnesses. As soon as I hopped out of that house and I entered the shop, it's fuck shit straight.
Like literally,
weed,
like we all fucking. I lost my virginity to weed when I was 16 because of Jomi's girlfriend.
Bro, how do you want to do this streetwear shit without all that, bro? Your parents
all the experiences. Your parents are trying to make you know, like see, and then like you see another person trying to make you fucking skate, trying to make you fucking injure yourself, trying to make you fucking.
And you know what's fucked is that's risky for Jomi because if
anything happens to us, they're going to go to him.
Jigga. So for us, streetwear at the end of the day for Nigerian people is just a way to tell your parents, "Oh, I'm going to the shop to go and what's it called, so you can go and wild out."
Yeah, literally, you sneak out of your house to go to a party to get drunk because your parents are like, "Don't leave the house." And then we found Jomi, and then Jomi gave us a space to go fucking crazy.
And what I'll say is how that affects the creativity is as you've gone out and you've smoked that weed or you've done whatever, and you've seen someone else and it's like, "Oh, bro, I know my friend who also smokes weed,
and everybody's smoking weed. Like everybody's.
Okay, we get it. You love smoking weed.
I don't smoke weed. I don't smoke
No, we're just saying. But at the end of the day, because of
sorry, I hear what you said, but I just think that's a good time to talk to the Free the Youth guys and just see how things were in Ghana too. How did you build your community in that space?
Yeah, in Ghana, yeah, like there was a lot of people interested in street fashion here, but because there wasn't like people on the internet at that time, like 2013, there was few people on the internet, like 2012, 2013. We were on Tumblr, we were on Instagram, we were on Facebook chilling. So we try to connect people through dance battles, and when we go to rap battles in Tema, when we go to all these competitions, all these battles, we connect with people who look like us, you know. So at a point, everyone was on Instagram. Then we started researching on what people really like. And what we mean by what people really like, what people was wearing at the time, and how we could interpret it with our culture. So we started as fashion boys. We were wearing all the Rick Owens, the Ralph Simmons from Thrift. The Thrift here is crazy though. Like, don't get it twisted.
Very big Thrift out here.
So we were wearing all the good brands here. Then people started liking our style. Then from that, we transcended into clothing brand.
Making our own clothes.
Yeah.
Making our own Supreme, Off-White, Bello.
Yeah, sometimes we make our own Supreme. If we can't afford it, we make our own Supreme because we learn how to screen print our stuff. So we make everything ourselves, and people started liking us for who we are, you know, for how we express ourselves freely without no setbacks or anything. So at a point, we paused for a little bit to research on what the internet needs and what the Ghanaian internet needs. So we had to pause and do a lot of research on clothes, materials, hashtags, everything associated with fashion. We had to research on it. Then we came back stronger and we started producing everything here. We like aesthetics. We have our own denim produced by ourselves. Like, I think we have one denim here. Let me show you. So you see this denim here? It's made with crocodile leather. And why we made it with crocodile leather? Because when we make denim and it's just denim, then that's nothing to talk about Africa on it. But crocodile leather or pure crocodile leather is what we know. So we have to do like laser print on crocodile leather to show the source of the clothes and where it's coming from. So our brand is basically about storytelling and telling it the African way. That's why United Nations were interested to collaborate with us. That's why Nike and Foot Locker told our story through the shops, you know, because it's all about storytelling and telling the truth, how it is.
Yeah, and one main reason why the name Frida is, you know, it's the same African story, similar to what Leo, Soulja Boy was saying, like African parents, like stopping us from chasing our goals, our dreams. We just want to see every kid doing a white collar job.
Like I have an engineering degree, but you know,
that's why
it is what it is.
We came up with the name Frida Youth. Yeah, because maybe you want to become an artist, but God say, yo, you should be a lawyer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like it should just free the youth, free us. Let's just be ourselves.
Yeah. But we try our possible best to tell the stories how it is. Like we have a shirt which is called 1,000 Injured, and that's one of my favorite shirts from Frida because it's from a tragedy which happened in the Accra Sports Stadium 2001, and a lot of people lost their lives, and a lot of people also got paralyzed because of that incident at the stadium. But we had to bring that incident back and pay respect to whoever lost their lives in that situation and just tell people that, yo, this happened. So if you have help to help these kind of people who are paralyzed right now, link them up, help them, you know.
Yeah. So actually art is inspiration, and we use the inspiration around us, the African inspiration, and just get the inspiration from our OGs to outside. And just blend it. Just create it. Just spreading the Ghanaian culture, African culture, like through our clothes and our merchandise.
Yeah, so that's what it is.
That's it. I think like that kind of like makes me think about, and I want to ask that question to like Vivendii. It's more about like, you know, obviously you do so much on like a local territory, but like how important is it for you guys, like, you know, being in London, but you're by the, you know, like you're Nigerians based in London, like how important for you is it to like being based in London, like, but exporting it globally? Like, what is it like? What's your vision of kind of like success? Is that, you know, do you try to like, you feel like you have to be in London to like export like your vision because you have more contact there, or like because you have more of a facilities being in London? But yeah, like I think like, you know, it's like is it important for you to export on a global scale? Like, why did you decide to be like more doing it more from London than doing it from like from locally?
Yeah, for now, that's the aim right now. We live in
global community. Yeah, this is to Vivendii, right? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So right now we live in a global community, and like the world is connected. Everybody all over the world are seeing the same things constantly. So I feel like it's not important for us to be in any one place. We can be anywhere. We can be in London, Paris, Milan, and we can operate. Our culture and our traditions, they move with us. So anywhere we are and whatever we're doing, we are Nigerian. So we make it Nigerian. And I think it's very important for us to kind of be inspired by traditional things, but also express ourselves in a new way, and so that we can shape like a new Nigerian dystopian world, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree. Same. I think like pre-COVID, we would be, just trying like spend most of our time between London and Lagos. But I think as things have advanced now, we've just learned the art of balance of just being able to distribute your thing, your culture, your vibe from wherever you are. And like, we always try and do that with Vivendii and Vivendii Sound. It's kind of always about like just bringing people together and just doing whatever we're doing, like, and people being able to experience it worldwide. That's the vibe.
And also like moving into this like new era and this new world, like there's a new language that is forming like from the young, like, and it's really about like following your intuition and following that like first voice, following your gut. And I feel like in that new age, we're communicating to a certain new breed of people across the world. And like a new age of people is about to rise. And these people are going to be full of creativity, doing whatever they want, whenever they want, without any labels whatsoever. But yeah, that's where it's at right now.
I think that's really important. And I think that if we look at it and the youth population, especially in like, let's say Nigeria, knowing that 50% of the 200 million are under, I think, 30, that shows the potential of like having a young, energetic new vision in that countries alone, not to talk about the whole of Africa. But I want to talk to you, Ireti, because I feel like you've done something that has kind of unified streetwear in Africa by starting Street Souk. And I just wanted to get a bit of context of like, what is the streetwear, like I often think that people are very ignorant globally. They probably don't even know there's that much streetwear in Nigeria or in Africa. So it's really important to give them a bit of context of like what streetwear is looking like right now in the continent.
The streetwear community in Nigeria is actually massive. Like, it's so much bigger than like I feel everyone thinks or even I imagined. When I started Street Souk, like it was literally just me putting on my story like, yo, how many people have like streetwear brands? Like texting my friends like, yo, who has a streetwear brand? And next thing you know, I get like 30 replies and they're like, oh, there are even more people who do have streetwear brands. And these are just the people I know. So I was just thinking like, oh my God, if I know 40, 50 people that have brands, I can't imagine like to a country, as you said, of a population of 200 million, how many people actually, have streetwear brands out there. And I know there's a lot of stuff in Ghana, like Free the Youth, South Africa. I'm seeing in the comments, like Kenya, apparently, Namibia, like all these other countries as well have so many streetwear brands. And yeah, so I feel like the streetwear community in Nigeria is really big and it's growing. Most importantly, it's growing and it's getting the recognition that it deserves. And luckily for me, I was able to, do something like Street Souk, which gave me the ability to like bring all the brands together, get all these like young upcoming streetwear brands and be like, yo, this is what is out there. Let people know that this is what's in Africa. This is what's in Lagos. Like it's popping. You don't have to wear like your Supremes and like your Awakes every day. You can wear your Motherland tee. You can wear your WafflesNCream tee and, it's equally as cool in that.
No, it's not second part. I think like you're putting the point like on something that we wanted to discuss is like, obviously there is like kind of that burgeoning generation of kids that use streetwear as a platform, as a voice, like something where they can express themselves. But then it's going to be like more of a question that I had for Jomi or like the guys that are like on the ground. It's more like, cool, there is all of these kids that are willing to do all of these things, but how do you feel like, what are the next steps for you like in terms of like what are the challenges that you have on the ground and what are the next steps?
Yeah.
Like
how can we get advice from like some people that have built the brands on this panel on like, here's my challenges and how we can build that so that we can kind of resolve it sooner rather than later. I think Angelo made an important point before of having no mentor or no one that really cared to solve the problems. But now, you know, we're all together on this chat. Like, what are some of the problems in territory and how can we fast forward them so that we can be on exactly the same level playing field?
And if you had to ask that, like to, you know, use this, like if you had like those challenges and then address like the right questions to like us or to Verge or to Angelo, like what do you feel you would need to like grow it to the next level?
Without compromising?
Honestly, I feel like resources need to be given on ground to like the African youth in their very many complex corners of Africa to speak on their own narratives. Like within Nigeria, for example, there's so many wealth disparities. There's so many different kinds of kids in every corner of that country. So what is important is that people need to identify that there are different stories that need to be told from different people. And if we can give these people the resources and the education to be able to talk and speak on their own narratives, this would be amazing. And it's very, very important to empower people that have walked within them and have lived within them and understand how they've been raised and understand their culture.
No, for real. No, I agree with everything.
Yeah. So I was speaking with a lot of passion. This shit is dear to my heart.
Trust me. But like, you know, for example, like Hussein, Jefferson, like we haven't heard from you a lot, but I think, you know, you guys have started Daily Paper, like, you know, for a while. Like you guys, I met you on Bread and Butter, like maybe 10, 12 years ago. I remember, like, you know what I mean? Like, you've been around for a long time, but I think what your brand has achieved is really like pushing, you know, even if you're Amsterdam based, like you're pretty much one of, for me, to my perspective, like one of the biggest African global brand, like speaking to African, you know, the African audience, African diaspora. Like, so what, like, was that intentional? Like from like where you started, like at the beginning, like, and how do you feel, you know, because I know you've been there, you've gone like doing so many things on the ground, like, what do you feel are like the next step also to bridge that gap and like help like locally as well?
Good. Well, thank you for having us and on this beautiful panel. Fan of a lot of you guys, for sure. So we started Daily Paper, I think, like, yeah, as you said, like about like 10 years ago, and around that time, the way people were viewing African culture in general, in Europe, where we're from, was not always in the best of light. It's not like how it is today, and so we wanted to. Obviously, we were big fans of streetwear and everything that came out of it. And the trend that we kept seeing in streetwear was that it was usually like very Western and European focused. And some of my favorite brands, whether they were Supreme or like a Ciesay, every time we look at their t-shirts and a world tour t-shirt, it always says Tokyo, London, Paris, New York, LA, and it would never say a Mogadishu, it would never say a Lagos, it would never say a Accra. And so when we were starting, we wanted to do a brand that reflected ourselves, it reflected diasporic culture, and all of us as founders have roots in Africa. So we felt that whatever we do, we have to stay close to where we're from and tell our stories through our clothing. Over the years, we've been seeing that the industry has been changing a lot. I mean, like we traveled for the first time to Africa, like as a brand, like maybe like 8 years ago. I met Grace there for the first time. Was at a convention in Johannesburg, and brands like Palace were there, and like a bunch of dope brands were all collectively there. And some of the reactions that I heard from the kids in Johannesburg were, "Wow, so dope that you guys are here. Nobody comes here," you know. And they don't have the same access that we have to a lot of these products, but they do have the same. You know, we are still globally connected, and they see everything that's happening on the internet, but they not often have access to it. And so we made it like as Daily Paper, like as a point to go every year to different places in Africa, learn more about, you know, culture on the ground, try to collaborate with creatives from the continent, and yeah, and in turn learn more about our own history.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And with all that said, we more or less want to contribute to a better perception of African cultures. So like what Hussein already said, we always go back, work with local talents, and from there on, we try to bridge a certain gap that has been created along the way. Yeah, and I think in general, what needs to happen is that, yeah, transparency amongst us. We need to be transparent and yeah, inform each other about certain resources. From there on, yeah, we'll empower each other to bring Africa to the next level, especially in terms of streetwear.
Yeah, and there's also one thing that I want to add is like streetwear is definitely, you know, a lot of do-it-yourself, and like, you know, just go to a local print shop, print your T-shirts, you know, make your own messaging and send it out, and try to find like-minded people that believe in what you have to offer and what you have to say. The problem, what we encounter a lot when we do like, for instance, a pop-up store in an African country every year, and one of the problems that we often, you know, that occur is like it's very difficult to get product over there. It's like more difficult than it was for me to get it to London, for instance. It's very difficult to produce locally. It's very difficult to, you know, like there are some hurdles that are, you know, limiting brands from Africa at this moment, that I know that when Lagos has better manufacturing opportunity, or like Accra has better manufacturing opportunities, there's going to be a lot more streetwear brands that are going to, you know, dominate. And that's just a matter of time, I think, for that happens.
Yeah,
and
it's like, yeah, these brands need easy access to all those facilities and resources. So for example, in LA, yeah, it's like a production city. You can easily start a brand, go to a local print manufacturer and grab your fabrics, and you already have a brand. When you are in Ghana or any other African country, you have certain hurdles to overcome. That's what Hussein like already said. And yeah, in order to overcome those hurdles, I think we need to facilitate those type of manufacturers, for example, or for example, initiate a bigger fashion week in Africa, so that the world looks to Africa in a different way when it comes to fashion.
Yeah, and definitely when it comes to manufacturing, or like overstepping these type of hurdles, you know, like we really need to help each other out a little bit more on that side.
Yeah, so mentorship and transparency, I think that's the key in general to become stronger as a Black community.
Totally. That's some, really important statements there. But I want to touch on something, and this might be a little bit controversial for everyone, but there's been a lot of conversation, obviously, with like what, you know, being from Africa and in Africa versus being from Africa and outside Africa, and what kind of responsibility everyone has for that. So do you feel like, and I'm going to maybe direct this at Vivendii, and Jomi's just gone off, but do you think that it's important, and maybe, Daily Paper, do you think that it's important to make sure that you are not to say privilege, but pretty much that you can go to somewhere, you can make something happen, your brand can fly and succeed quicker because you have those production facilities and then you use the narrative of Africa to sell your product or expose your product. What's your thoughts about that, and how you make sure that you consider the local territory when you do that?
I feel like it's very important to empower the local people at the very core, and to give these people the skills and tools for them to work for themselves and create and build for themselves.
Yeah.
So this is giving people and empowering people with tools so that they can be owners in their own right.
Yeah.
And this is very important. We understand
for example,
that.
Back home, we have like a workshop that we work with out there, and the amount of jobs that it provides for people out there to be able to do things they didn't even realize they could do. They just didn't simply have like enough of the just the idea that they're allowed to have vision, to be able to think beyond just the common techniques. So there are people out there that can screen print, do DTGs, do cut and sew, do all types of different clothing production. And it's just kind of about empowering people with, economic wealth to be actually able to do that. That's kind of what is like super important with our brand.
Yeah, we also understand that there are Africans that exist like outside Africa and Africans that are in Africa. And both of them, they need to have a dialogue with each other. They need to be able to communicate with each other properly and on a very honest, true level. So we understand that Africans within the diaspora need to tell their story of how they are Africans within this diaspora. But it's important for Africans from within Africa to tell their own stories, so that the stories from the African diaspora don't overshadow the stories from the actual Africans living in Africa every day. Right. And to properly be able to do that, it's this dialogue, it's constant conversation to get to this point of a level of understanding, basically.
Another thing we'd love to add is, I feel like in many communities, there's always like stars. There are always people who stand out. There are always inspirations, right? And then like for every culture, there's someone who's doing something. So in Nigeria as well, and in Africa, I don't really see anyone who's like a star in streetwear. I don't see anyone who's really like someone who can inspire other people in streetwear. So I feel like the reason why we started brands too is just to become inspirations for other people, literally inspiring people to just do what we're doing.
Agree with that. Like
at the end of the
exactly.
Yeah, we're trying to add up a little bit too, because like when we started Frida, there was no hope of getting anybody help us with production or anybody help us with nothing. So we chose for ourselves to make the stuff ourselves by us, So at a point we perfected that. So we didn't really seek for international production because we found ways and means and people who are experts to do everything possible here. So, and we have like workshops every month to train kids how to screen print their own shirts. So I feel like for us, everything is possible here. It just depends on who you work with and how you work, Because like we have stuff which is impossible to do here, but we find ways and means to make it here, by us. So I feel like that's the power we are talking about. When we talk about empowering the youth, that's what we mean by empowering the youth.
I think that's really, like exactly that question like raised a lot of points. But before I move on from that question, I just want to see, Jomi, I really would love to see what your point of view of that is, and also on like anything infrastructure wise, because I think that, out of everyone on this panel, I've seen your growth most visibly over the years. So I just would love to see how you've managed to deliver at that level consistently. I think we've lost Jomi.
Yeah, I think we lost Jomi. But maybe just also on that, that's a question, I think, Verge, I'd love to know your point of view, because obviously we know, you started literally just screen printing some Champions hoodies, and then, the thing for you, and you're the biggest example for that is that when you started having access from Italian manufacturers and like having more knowledge, obviously your innovation and your creativity can only grow from that. So like what can you give a little bit of your experience and like what how that helps you, and how you feel potentially how we could potentially like create something like that in Africa for the youth? Like what would be your ideal dream?
Yeah, and I think what I always sort of say is that like the biggest hurdle that you have in your own ecosystem is actually the gift in disguise. Like that's actually the point of difference. Like that's what will make you stand out from the crowd of everyone else that wants to make a screen printed t-shirt. And I know it sounds like a little bit like, oh, I just want to find a screen printer and make it. But it's like, if you don't have a screen printer and you can't find a blank tee, it's like, don't look at that disadvantage as like your hurdle. That's actually what's going to make the 2.0 of streetwear or the next evolution of your identity. So the biggest thing that I see that's needing in sort of mentorship realms that I preach a lot is to use our brains, use our ingenuity, use our emotion. That's what makes us different designers than the world has ever seen. And once you have that sort of logic, once you have that belief in your faith, what you believe in, how you see the world, then your brand starts from that. It doesn't start necessarily from like, oh, I like that brand, I want to start something similar. And that's just to Alex's point, is when you get this, because I believe everyone in this panel will get as far as I am and further than that. And what you will be tested with is like ideas, energy. Like you won't be tested with anything practical at this point. You just need to have like an endless pit of inspiration. If anyone looks at me, like I'm probably up by like 3 a.m. and I'm, I've been known to be out until 2 a.m. Like I literally don't sleep, like I would die for this opportunity to be able to create. Because what do most of us as young Black men and women have is we don't have the same, we're not afforded the same opportunity to just dream, to create, to make things. So, I think streetwear is the most beautiful sort of organizing system for us to learn. But I think everyone's struggles, also their points of view in this chat is pure gold to start the next generation. And I like what you said of Vivendii, it's like us being in conversation. I think Grace and Alex bringing us all together. Imagine if we did this once a month, how much we would learn and how much other people would learn from it.
It's necessary for us to educate ourselves constantly so that we can create a true path for people all across the world. And this is Black people in every corner of the world that we're talking about. Let's lift them up. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And like imagine like, you were saying that I can't do that in Ghana, but creating African design or creating like Black design, like you can create and you can use any suppliers in the world. The beauty of it would be like, yo, Virgil, I want to do that. Do you know where I can do it? But vice versa, like already have so many things on the ground that, could inspire some other design, and that would be the beauty of it.
I think that's it on the head, and I wanna illustrate what Virgil said, like, and I can tell you this firsthand: the best ideas come from oppression. When you have everything possible for you, you don't make the best ideas. The best ideas come from that DIY, that really
100%
together. That's when the best ideas come. Actually, when you get more money, you start weakening and diluting your ideas. That's what I truly believe. So that's why everyone's obsessed with youth, because it comes with the purest energy. The second thing I want to add is that your biggest value, your biggest asset, your biggest reference is everything you've learned. Every single thing you've learned by being or growing up in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, whatever, is going to dictate the future of fashion, the future of streetwear. It's all in your hands. So those two things combined which people can't get. People can't buy ideas. That's the bit that is pure. If you want to get some t-shirts made through the youth, you could send me the design. I can make them for you. Make them and I can ship them back to you by DHL. If that, obviously we have other problems in the territory. We talked about production. We talked about shipping. We talked about like manufacturing. Of course, those are bigger problems we need to solve. But in terms of the idea to reality, it's possible now. It's possible in 2020 to do that. So I think that summary of that point is really important. And I think that, you know, what I was saying to you before about narrative and owning that narrative is so key. Like, own your narrative. Everyone own your narrative, because we will all learn from your narrative. When you're building your products design, when you're doing your shoots, when you're doing your photography, when you're doing your location, that is all completely new to everyone else in the world. You know, like in Africa, of course, you guys see that every day, but to everyone else, that is a new vision of everything. So that's a huge, huge asset. So that's not really a question, but more a statement. So
I would piggyback off that. I would piggyback off what Grace said. And it's like, you know, I formally believe the future of fashion is African. You know, and we're talking about like, like we're talking about like the style. What I mean is like we haven't had the chance to have the same voice. You know, we know when you say New York, when you say Tokyo, when you say France, you can just see the outfit, right?
I believe the rebirth of the world is Africa, because everything comes full circle.
From
the world was born in Africa, and its rebirth is happening from Africa again. And it's a beautiful journey that we're all going on right now.
Yeah, and like you said, if it's resources, like lean on all of us old guys and women in the chat. You know, like, everyone gets my phone number. Everyone gets Alex's and Grace and Angelo, because 2020 is urgent. You know, like if it's something practical, like a DHL account. Like, but
yeah, but at the same time, even
like,
after
let's unlock those like deep chamber of ideas of thinking free, and like literally create irreverent to what's on Hypebeast, irreverent to what's happening in the shops, irreverent to what's happening. And I think then we're gonna unlock and enter a new era, which has a lot more people like you and I a part of it.
Yeah, we're being pushed towards that space now of like, you know, even a lot of the higher end brands deciding to not do like seasons anymore, and it's being pushed more and more into this space of just like free flow. Whatever goes, what happens. Like how you want to create is how you want to create. It just is what it is. You put out when you want to put out, and your people will just fuck with it regardless. And that's like the vibe.
Yeah, and your community will, you know, just follow you. And like I said, you know, that's the most important thing, is that we can have each other.
Ciesay, did you go in on your community?
Yes.
That was the next question. I
was like the community overlord.
Sorry, what's the question?
Like,
sorry.
You know, at the end of the day, it's your community will follow you when you just do your drop, because you're just pushing your, you know, that is just your story. Like that's just about you. Like it's not connected to anything in terms of like seasonal or whatever. Like, and you're the master of that.
Yeah. So how crucial was it for you to build a global community around Places and Faces One, and how did that help your brand? And how important was it for you to connect the brand with like Gambia, Nigeria, Ghana, etc.?
It was very important because, you know, when I first started Places and Faces as a photographer, I started in New York. An uncle of mine invited me to New York. That was like my first time there, and I witnessed like just this new like culture. This is when like, you know, A$AP Ferg just shot Shabba, and Rocky had just dropped his stuff, and you know, Travis Scott, all these people were coming out. So me witnessing that and going to all these events. I ended up staying in New York for 3 months, just soaking in all that culture. And while I was there, I met Ola there actually for the first time. I didn't know who he was. We just randomly bumped into each other because of Cassian, and we were literally just running around New York, like finessing our way into all these parties and events. And then me like seeing like all these like people and all these like cultures, then coming back to London, and then having that knowledge. And because I didn't know anything about anything at the time, I didn't even know who a Virgil was. And I came to New York, Paris Fashion Week, it was the Bin Chill Party 2013. And then that's when I seen Virgil, and Kanye was there, and Alex was there, and all the Pigalle guys were there. And that's me like just soaking it all in, like, wow, these are like communities of people that actually fuck with each other, that have brands or starting brands. And so basically me seeing all of that, when I was putting that back into place with Faces, when I started doing the brand, because I made my clothes not to sell, it was for my friends at first. Then people saw that and wanted to buy it. And I didn't even feel comfortable selling it, but there was a demand for it. So, I said, fuck it, I'll sell a couple of hoodies and see what happens. I borrowed £300 to make my first 15 hoodies that my friends wore at Boiler Room. And then I had to borrow another £300 to make more hoodies because I couldn't sell those specific hoodies. And then from there, it was just building off of that and just building more money from that. And then just, seeing, my thing about Place to Faces was always trying to find like-minded people. So if I'm in London and people like partying in Brixton and Shoreditch, and then I go to New York and people like partying in the LES, then who are the people that party in Tokyo? Who are the people that party in Lagos? Who are the people that party in Singapore? So that's why with every Place to Faces post, when it comes to the photography, it's always place XYZ. Could be a famous musician or an up-and-coming musician or just somebody from that city, and then, place the city and then face the person. So that was me trying to build this global culture and building this community of people that are all like-minded and can all see each other. So then when I'm posting these things, like a kid from Singapore who's starting his brand and is a skater can also see me post Motherland on my page, and then they just connect from that. They may follow each other and then they just might link through that. So my brand and my Instagram account or social media account was always just a way for other people to find other people that are like-minded to them. I don't know if that answers the
beautiful
question.
answer, Ciesay, very concise and clear, but I think that you epitomize something that I care about. Really important to me is finding myself in every place. I try to find a version of myself everywhere I travel, since I've been traveling since, I first got my passport when I was 18. But what is really interesting from you saying that global conversation is so important. And, we are living in a global space and everything is about globalizing your ideas. For someone that is like Free the Youth or Jomi, one, it's more of a question for you, is like, is it important to think global immediately, or do you want to create your local community so you've always got that, or do you in 2020 go straight into like finding yourself globally and like doing it on a global level, like so you connect everywhere? Because also for me, I grew up in London, so when I was growing up, at the beginning, I was a London girl. All of my mates were from London. Everything, I saw Palace come up. I was around like grime. I was around all of the countercultures that were happening. So to me, local was really important in the start. It was about localizing myself first. So is that something that's still relevant? Jomi, if we can hear you, I'd love to see what you think about that.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, guys, I've been like MIA. Nice. Okay. So for me, it's really because I think streetwear for me is all about exploring. Skateboarding is about exploring. And, growing up as an African kid, I think most of us had explored the West and Europe and Asia to an extent. And there's so much in Africa that I think people need to explore from different parts of the continent. So, like, the guys from Free the Youth, personally, I went over to Ghana to link up with them You know, the guys from Daily Paper, I met them once. I've not been to Amsterdam, but I feel like for the African skateboarding culture, we need to explore all corners of Africa, from Namibia to Zambia to, you know, they're crazy rippers there. You know, like Kagiso from Botswana. I think if he was in the West, he would have done better. You know, someone like Henry Kubwasi, he's a dope skater. And I think guys in Kenya need to see him. You know, the kids in Ethiopia need to come to Lagos. You know, so that for me, that's very important to explore. And so we can also hold our own, because, you know, we've been scarred for so long as Black people. Our confidence has been bruised. You know, they've been shutting doors, shooting us, killing us, and all that. So I think it's more important now to explore ourselves and fix ourselves, so that when we go into the West or the East, you know, we have each other strong. That's my dream. You know, like one of my personal dreams is to see a professional skateboarder from Africa, you know, at SLS or at, you know, the other thing. I've lost track of things that go on in the West, but one of those, because they're big platforms that will get attention around the world. But before that happens, I always, you know, I really want Africa to hold its own before it's been exposed. And, you know, someone like Virgil was holding up the mantle because he's, for example, he's Ghanaian, right? And I'm sure the Free the Youth guys are looking up to Virgil as someone who, the possibilities are there. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, Africa needs its diaspora to help ignite the connections within ourselves, and then give us the resources and everything to then spread out. That is my vision, and that's my hope and my dream. And I think Africa is such, you know, I don't want to go into colonial stuff, but when they first came, they were exploring Africa, you know. But it's funny that we as Africans try, I don't know, we need to explore ourselves, you know. It's so big. Africa can fit in America, Europe, Asia, and there'll still be space. I don't think in our lifetime we'll be able to explore the whole of Africa, but I think we should start, you know. It's very, very important, too important. Then I think the global thing can happen, you know, the West and everything. And if we come together, there's no way anybody can, I don't think our struggles will be as deep if we see each other. Because I always say, like, the things that we experience in Lagos, and the things we experience and things people in Botswana experience are similar, but we treat our problems totally different. So, for example, we had Kagiso and Mosako come over to Nigeria to film Yasis, and we've been doing videos for a long time. And, you know, we did a few videos with Motherland before they became Motherland, and there's a Lagos vibe to it and a source. But then when we got the guys from Botswana to come over to Lagos and we met each other, it was crazy, because it just created this thing that I don't think I would have done in Europe or America, because they might not see the challenges that we face. And what we created was an African experience. So that's my take. I really want Africa to work with each other, you know, work more. And
just to add on to that, I think, like, it's also super important for us to not always, like, because Africa as a whole is such, like, it's such a complex thing with so many combined different cultures. I think it's also important for us to, like, shy away from the idea of talking about Africa as a whole, because in Nigeria alone, Yoruba and Igbo people are so different. You would think these niggas wasn't even the same from the same country. So I think it's very important for us to, like, when we talk about Africa per se, I think it's important for us to talk directly about different countries and their cultures in particular, so that we can just like hash it away, and everybody in those countries needs to put in their effort to push their thing, because we can't all be pushing the same agenda. We all have to be pushing our individual different cultures.
Exactly.
Countries, you know, and I think that's super important. Like most people coming up, for example, in Niger, where we grew up in Lagos, like ain't nobody really hearing about East Africa like that, or North Africa. We be worried about Nigeria, maybe a little bit about Ghana, Cameroon, a couple countries, but it's like our culture is so thick. There's so many dynamics just within us that we're too focused with just that. And I think it's important for us to, yeah, man, Nigerians push their thing, Ghanaians push their thing. We're all together collectively, but you don't want like the West to open the tap and just be like, okay, this tap is for Africa. Nah, we need some of the tap in Nigeria. We need some of the tap in Ghana. We need some of the tap in Gambia, everywhere, so that everyone's on their own key and has their own thing going on. That's the vibe.
You know what I think it is, yeah. You know, crazily, yeah, when people start skateboarding in South Africa, you look at South Africa's skateboard parks and you're like, damn, there's niggas wearing palace there and shit.
Yeah.
Bro, there's nobody having that shit in Nigeria. Like, you can't expect all of us to come and hold hands together and start saying, yeah, Africa, we're coming up together. It can't work like that.
Even in Africa, there's still like divisions. Like
there's divisions, bro. There's so many people in South Africa. Henry is the only person I think I've ever seen come out of Nigeria that can do the shit they do in South Africa. How come no one is hearing about him?
People actually get to skate magazines, bro. Like in different places in Africa, there's different types of things happening. Exactly. And like South Africa is way more like grown than Nigeria.
You can't compare the skate scene there to the skate scene in Nigeria, because in Nigeria the skate scene has kind of merged with the streetwear scene. So now it's not really about skate anymore. It's just like, okay, it's easy, but Henry is going out every single day. Like, wants to be pro.
Like we have people there that have been trying to be pro.
You need to
and
be
trying.
People like that need to be helped taken pro. Do you feel me?
But at the end of the day, we need each other. That's the thing. We never help each other. Like
I'm going to interject because I'm the moderator.
Just quickly touch upon what everyone's saying is, I'm very inspired by, Vivendii and Motherland and Ireti, and even like me coming to Lagos for the first time for the homecoming event, I was able to see everyone united in a way. I was able to see all of you guys in your home turf, and then seeing, the stuff that Virgil made for it, and then seeing all these other artists from South Africa, from Ghana, all perform at this, and me seeing that, it really, like me being a Gambian, I'm hearing that Nigeria is 200 million people. Gambia is only 1% of that. The population of Gambia is 2 million people. We're not really known for anything. I couldn't name any Gambians, celebrities or influencers that influenced me when I was younger. The only Gambian person is Kunta Kinte. People don't even know he's Gambian. She's the only name from that I can think of. But now I'm seeing communities of people from these countries coming together, and I'm sort of like trying to go back to Gambia and get all these people together. Now we have the J Husses and the Past Sally's and all these people, and now I'm having a conversations with like some of them to say, all right, cool, look at what's going on in Nigeria and Ghana and South Africa. How can we bring this to Gambia in a way and influence the new young people that haven't had anyone to look at to influence them for stuff, and we could be those people. And that's
I 100% agree with you. So I disagree with some of your points, and I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, I think that the conversation about Africa and Africans in the diaspora is so important. I 100% think that we have a role to play with each other, and if we worked closer together, everyone will win. I think that's really important. But I also feel like as much as we need to represent who we are in Africa, that's great. I'm Nigerian. I'm going to obviously Niger #1, but it's also important to make sure that you are aware and celebrating what is happening on the continent as well, because in the same way that, I am celebrated maybe because I've got an MBE from the UK, that's nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean? That's nothing to do with me. let them talk about that. But I'm from Nigeria too, so I'm like, that's just as important. So it's like we have to celebrate like other things that are happening in Gambia, Ghana. I remember when we brought J Hus to Homecoming, and Homecoming wasn't just about Nigerian people. It's about in Nigeria, because that's the center point. That is the center point of Africa, in my opinion. So it was important to celebrate that, but it was also important to show what is happening in other places, you know. So J Hus, when he left Homecoming, he said, I'm going to Gambia. I'm literally going to Gambia and I'm going to start my own Homecoming. And I was like, go. And he said, like, there's a couple of people, Ciesay. I bumped into Pastor Lou the other day. I said, you and Ciesay, just do it. Go and do it in your space. But also we inspire each other from being from Africa. Do you know what I mean? That's what the inspiration comes from. You are more inspired because you're seeing someone like Vivendii or Motherland or Free the Youth do something in Africa, and that's going to inspire you. But you have to be part of the global vision of it. You know, we have to be a part of the collective vision for that to
we want to add something to it, because like our vision for Free the Youth is for it to be a pan-African brand than a world brand, because Africa has like over 1 billion population, and like most of this, the group of the population is between 14 to 27. So if you dominate Africa as a whole and come with a brand who has like 20 million following of African kids, like no other international brand can compare themselves to you, because you build your own empire, you know. And what Africa have in common to me or to us is like we Africans respect each other culture individually. That's what we have in common. Nobody discriminates nobody's culture, because we believe in each other's norms and their way of life. So I feel like if we try to understand each other's culture, we can spread out and make our brands, or everywhere you come from, you can just spread out. It's like a signal, you know, just respect each other's culture and dive through it. Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else to say on that conversation before we move into our final topic?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that Africa has to unite. Like, I know we all have a different problems. Like you said, like, yeah, Nigeria's population is 200 million, Gambia's is 2 million, and that, and you know, different things like that. South Africa might be a lot more advanced than other places, but for everything to work, even just like streetwear is just a little lens of it. But in terms of everything, Africa has to unite in order to be individualistic and be like, oh, I'm Nigerian, I have to care about Nigeria, blah blah blah. Like, that's just not the way forward. Look at the European Union. It's because the European countries decided to, like, you know, join together type of thing. So I'm agreeing with Grace on that.
No, but I definitely agree with everything you guys say. I think
there's no right or wrong. I definitely think there's a. Oh,
sorry.
Okay. I just realized I was talking at the same time as you.
No, go on. Sorry.
And my point is that I'm not saying that there's any right or wrong. That's just in my opinion. But also, let me let you ask Ciesay, say your point about Ireti. What role does Street Souk play in that? Like, how can Street Souk, like, even just have a conversation about streetwear, like we used to have in Europe with Bread and Butter and other trade shows that would talk about streetwear. That's how I met. That's how I met Daily Paper. I've met Palace. So many people through this convention that it was important for us to all go there, look at all the streetwear that was happening all around Europe, and look at and see what was happening. So how can streetwear, how can you play a role in that? But let's just let Ciesay say his point before you answer that.
I think a little bit why I said got misconstrued. What I mean is not me taking like what I've seen from everyone and bringing it to Gambia and that's it. I mean that me seeing what everyone's doing and then seeing that, okay, cool, there's homecoming, and then all the people come to Nigeria for homecoming, then they might come to Nigeria again, to Lagos again for native land, then they'll come to Ghana for Afro Nation. Then, you know, then it's like building something Gambia. So all these African countries can have something that it's like a train of people just staying in Africa and going to different countries as opposed to just focusing on one country to go to and then going back home. It's like, cool, if they're coming to, you know, Lagos from the 21st to the 23rd, then Ghana's the 23rd 23rd to the 25th, then Gambia is like the 26th or 27th, then you know what I mean, then it just everyone's going through Africa and going everywhere to South Africa to Ethiopia and seeing all these different things, and it's just linking everyone together. And I think even us doing this right now, me, Gambia, Vivendii, all you guys, Nigeria, Ghana, Hussein, and Jefferson, who have their roots to Africa and Ghana, all these places. These are the links that I'm talking about that people are going to witness, and then we can all just build this trained system of building a whole system in Africa, as opposed to let's just focus on one place specifically each year or each time.
Yeah, word.
When they talk about Europe, they don't talk about it collectively. Individual states have individual things they have going on, and so I think it's important for Africa to also have that, so that from the West, they're not perceiving us as, oh, it's one Africa. It's like, nah, it's way more than that.
I think that's the biggest problem with that. I 100% agree with you, Jimmy. I think that's the biggest problem, because I guarantee that if someone watches talk, they'll just say they're from Africa, and
but I feel like, the most important thing to do as Browns in Africa is to change the misconception that Africa is all about war and hunger and kids living on trees and stuff. That's not what I'm living in a nice house. We're living in a nice house. So I feel like let's use our brand to change that for the outside media to know that we are not here living on trees or there's war every day or there's hunger. We are actually living our good lives here and creating from scratch from African producers, or African inspiration.
I'm so sorry. I don't think that's true. I don't think anybody thinks that African people live in trees. There's a lot of people that do think that, but when you talk about what we're doing here, and people see it, they think about African print. They don't think about
trees anymore. They're thinking about what we're
talking about now is how to move forward, not about what's happening with war and
trees and all that.
Okay, I think that there's two things. I think that the main thing that both Vivendii and Freedom Youth were trying to say is that, narrative is really important. Africa, not one country. Africa has 54 countries. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they are all individual and they all have different stories. So it's important, and cultures and microcultures in that. And it's important for people to acknowledge that 100%. That's so important. So when they're saying like, oh, I'm going to Africa, what does that mean? It's insane. Secondly, I think that there is, as much as, motherland, you guys are in a bubble, which you are, the general Joe blogs feels like that World Aid advert where there's flies in kids' eyes is the narrative of Africa. They think that that's what happens in Africa. So what your brands do and will serve to do will change the narrative. And that's why we always say, and I hate the narrative because it's been overused this year, but the narrative that you present for your clothing, your shoots, everything changes the narrative of the continent. You are responsible for that. It's in your hands. You guys can paint a completely different picture. And the most important thing that is that everyone is willing to do it. Like I've started a festival. Yeah, it sounds good, gisty and all of that. But the most important thing now for me is that we are moving things forward. Like we have to move things forward. It's not about me. It's about everyone on this brand, on this panel, me using my access to elevate and connect people so that you guys can keep what Virgil said is that, you should all overtake Virgil. And Virgil, I'm going to talk to you in a minute about ownership, but everyone on this panel should be like, Virgil, he's cool, yeah. Whatever, Google Off-White, it made $345 million last year. Well done. But literally, in your mind, you should be thinking, we're going to be bigger than that brand. Or you don't have to be bigger, like in terms of numbers, but like in terms of what you think he's done wrong, or that's how I always go. I was like, oh, I respect them, but my version is going to be like this, and that is really important.
And you learn because you have an example, and like that's the thing. It's like you learn that, and you learn because you see someone doing it, and then you can learn from them, grow from them,
and learn from their mistakes and learn to build your own thing. But that's a really important part of the statement. Let's last thing on that from Sloan, and then I'm moving on to the next
Yeah, but I understand what everyone is saying. But then, if that's the case, then why is everyone in Nigeria still going to Ajilube to go and pick up some random kid and then put their tea on them? Like, do you get what I'm saying? If you really want that to happen, then why are we all still doing that? Why is it that when I want to go do a shoot, I don't want to go and do it in Nikon, or I'm being judged for doing it in Nikon because I could go to a Ojuelegba and do it? Why is everyone doing that?
So basically, what he's
like,
saying
if you want
is
that
this.
to change, then why are you still doing that? If you want someone to change the demographic for the next person that thinks what you're doing is cool, then why are you still going to go and put that on that specific kid who hasn't washed his face anymore? It doesn't make. For me, I just feel like if you really want to, if everyone really wants to say that, then okay, everyone book a studio, go to shoot your clothes in there, and then shoot it. Because then why at the end of the day everybody's still going to those same kids that we've going to since 2010?
Like literally,
bro, like if you want to change it,
everyone is using the same African narrative of, oh, Africa is suffering, Africa is this, Africa is that, Africa is this. We're not making it elite. We're not making it amazing. We're not making it great. We're just going back to the same starving African kid perspective we've been using for a long time.
But that's
about changing the whole perspective, but it's still the same thing we keep doing for years.
And us for doing it, then we're blaming other people for doing it. Well, why don't we change it first then?
But I feel like that's the importance of like things like homecoming, like Native, changing the narrative, you know, on a global thing. Like Native is out there and Fader showing like this is what's happening in Africa. Homecoming is showing all these publications like this is what's happening in Africa. You know, you're bringing these people into Africa. We know these songs. We know Virgil. You know, we know Off-White. So yeah, 100%, man. Publication, storytelling, the narrative is just so important.
Exactly. We need to change it first before we start asking other people to change it. You change what you're doing. Don't go asking other people to change it. You change it first. Like, we're Africans.
We should create our own complex on the continent. We should create our own bread and butters on the continent.
Yeah, so okay.
Have you finished Motherland? Go ahead.
Yeah, our point is like
yeah, I would say, as I was saying, we should create our own complex cons on the continent, our own sneakerness, our own like pivotal moments during fashion weeks. So as Grace already mentioned, she sees Nigeria as a center point of Africa. That's something that I agree in, even if I'm Ghanaian, I agree with that. But we should not only focus on Nigeria, we should focus on all other territories. And like what Ciesay was saying, bring it to all the continent, get inspired and create everything across the continent. That's how we're gonna empower each other on the long term.
Yeah, well, like one thing I really did like is like I love seeing like a lot of you people in European fashion weeks, but I love it even more when I see people in Lagos, for instance, or if I bump into them in Accra or in South Africa, like different places, and that's where we get to meet people like Free the Youth or Vivendii or WafflesNCream, and be able to work together.
Yeah. That's the way forward.
Sick. Yeah, and that is the way forward. Like for us, like that's why we created Homecoming, and that's why we're doing things like that. So, you know, that's
yeah, I think it's important, and I just want to go on to like ownership, because I think that's another underrated question that we need to talk about here. And actually, Virgil, I just wanted to get your point of view on a couple of things, because obviously, like, you know, I would say you've been trending on Twitter a couple of times.
Yeah.
You've been trending for various reasons, but I think that one of the key things, and I really want to be able to use this platform to be able to talk openly, is that, like, you know, when you're under, because you've been through, like, people don't understand your journey. Your journey started like everyone else's, but a lot of people see you at the end point in your journey. They see you here and all of that. But what I did manage to learn from your journey in particular was that when we get to a position of power or influence or whatever, it's so important to make sure that we don't forget where we started. Do you know what I mean? That we don't forget that, like, we are a platform to build and, you know, amplify and platform and give opportunities to. So I just wanted to like start with, like, how do you feel like someone in your position where you've like built a multi-million pound brand that you still 100% own, and, you know, you've been able to kind of get to that position? What were your key learnings, and what kind of can we take from that?
the key learnings are always like, keeping your feet on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, you can take it outside of me. Like, any friend of ours that, might have been a performer, DJ, rapper, we all, or basketball player, football player, we all know the story arc. So I think first it's important, you can't remove ourselves from like the nature of man and woman, the story arc, like from obscurity to being known to prominence. And then it's almost like, okay, your time is up. That's like the ecosystem. But in terms of how I was able to sort of focus on my trajectory was like, okay, I want to start a brand and I want to control it. I want to decide what the logo is. I want to decide where the photo shoot is. I want to decide if I'm going to do a runway in X, Y, or Z city. But in order to do so, you don't have to give up your creative ingenuity to do your practice. That's why I talk about the hurdle a lot. Like that if it's a hurdle, you have to lose. Like Michaela Cole's story this year of 2020, I think is the most important. She wrote from Ghana. She wrote her story. Netflix wanted to give her 10%, and she said no, and she went to HBO and retains 100% of it, and it's a hit show. Like her story is our story. Her story, but we have to do it with conviction, because I think it's important to know our careers will be long. You might have started your brand 3-4 years ago, but when you have 2 kids like I do, and you have to live till you're 80, like we should all be, retaining that early idea we had when we were in our 20s all the way through the rest of our lives. And that's a master level mentorship. My father and mom from Ghana, Accra, like they came to this country with like dreams of putting their kid to be in college to be an engineer. And I was like, I had a skateboard in my hand instead. And I was like, I'm not leaving this skateboard, and I'm not leaving this DJing that I'm into, but I want to grow and retain ownership of something, so I didn't have to work a job to sort of prove that I was like an adult or something. And streetwear has afforded me to that. So when I speak, I'm all about trying to give the tools for the younger audience to know how to do that. When you start your brand, find a lawyer that you trust, but also find a lawyer that you can get out of that deal with, because the first one you have might not be the one for you. So don't sign anything crazy that says that they retain any ownership. And then as you move on, you have to sort of have like an unwillingness to compromise. But like I said, it's such a diverse space that needs mentoring. It's like, that's what I'm here for. And that's what you don't find in the blog posts or in the comments. It's like, there's not enough of us. So my platform is to make sure that the doors are open so that it's real talk. Like there's like real advancement, not we're talking about this and then in 6 months we're moving on to like whatever's popping,
100%. I definitely agree with everything you've said, but do you feel like someone could say, okay, cool, that's good, but we've seen a photo of the people your staff that work for your brand and they don't represent you? Or like, how much do you think that you can, from your learnings, tell people that are maybe watching this panel that are in a similar position to you and want to make sure that they're feeling like they're giving opportunities, like that the steps that you can make? Because I feel like definitely in the ownership space of your brand and what you do, that is so important. But me personally, when I approach a project, I think about every step of it, platforming or opportunity. And I think that you do that, but we don't necessarily always see that. So you will come under the scrutiny because someone's seen a photo of like Off-White and it's like all Italians or whatever. And they're like, why don't you just give internships to young kids from XYZ? And I feel like there are other things that express that essence. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I started a postmodern, it's called Scholarship Fund, and I didn't start it with like saying, this is what I want to do. I raised $1 million to put behind my mouth when I said it. because that's how serious it is. You know, that's not what they're not going to broadcast on the news or Twitter the same way when that hits, because it's real. You know, it's a matter of fact. That's my same trajectory, putting money on that so that Black students can sort of make the inroad. You know, a lot of it has to do with, of course, like there's mentorships. There's a number of Black designers and talent that have come up through my system that you guys know personally. You guys know my story from the days when Off-White was just showing a screen printed T-shirt on a runway, and you know, A-Side and Tremaine doing one of the first collections with Lash as the model that predicated, you know, the beginnings of their own careers in fashion, or Baque shooting a Louis Vuitton campaign, one of its first big budget projects in fashion. I think the scrutiny is fine. You know, scrutiny means that I'm afforded a position that isn't sort of, it comes with the territory, but my legacy will be proof. You know, there's students, there's lectures, there's everything I can do in my power to leave actual remnants, not sort of stories told. Somebody else on?
Motherland, are you saying something, Motherland?
Yeah, all I want to say, he's right. It's beyond just like telling stories. It's like literally being a character. It's literally being the hero. It's like every single story we're told always has like a main character, and the main character or a group of main characters always end up making things right. And at the end of the day, no matter how many people try to separate like the work from the person is still the work. And then that's what ownership is all about. It's just beyond designing. It's actually me designing. Is my story in this. It's me being the main character in whatever story that's happening. And I feel like that's the main beauty about ownership, literally just being your own hero.
What I think it is, you know, the way he said what he's done and he backed it with the $1 million. Like, bro, Jesus, I don't want to reference the Bible because like I don't go to church or anything. Jesus said, bro, if you're praying in the temple or you're praying outside on your own, it's still the same thing. So don't watch what I'm doing, bro. Like if I'm still doing the work, like let me do the work. Why are you
telling me where to do the work? Why are you telling me how to do the work?
Like at the end of the day, even if I'm not, the most deceiving person is the one that goes to the church and starts doing hey.
Yeah, the people who try the most, the people who are in the news, the people who are literally the ones you hear.
Bro,
those are the ones that are lying. Those are the liars. Those people are the people you never hear.
I'm just do it like this. Just do your work and just do the good work and do it from the goodness of your heart.
Wait, Virgil, how were you able to like affirm people saying the whole 50 Virgil thing? How do you survive that?
Bro, Twitter's not let me even cap.
Like, how do you survive that for real?
Man, look at what we survive as a people. You know, like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Like, Jacob Blake was shot 7 times, 20 minutes where I'm talking to you right now. You know, I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Black kids get shot, 60 in a weekend. Like, this is not, it's like so not even like a game. And it's like I at the time donated 20,000, but I don't brag about it, right? So someone took a screen grab. In the stories to the left and right of that, I had posted exactly like where to donate. But it's like, am I going to waste time chasing around the phantom myth that I literally only took $50 when I put 20,000? It's like those are the, like when I talked about hurdles before, this is something important.
Yeah.
You're going to have hurdles in your career in the beginning, and you're going to think that those are going to stop you. You're also going to have hurdle. It doesn't get sweet or easier the further down you go. They actually get worse. And I love how you said it. Like, how did you survive the $50 thing? It's like, for us as Black creatives, do you realize how many things like that will happen to you?
Exactly.
Yeah, to be honest, it's like if you're from Nigeria, if you're from the ghetto, nothing like words will actually affect you. You actually need bullets. You need bullets.
It's single flying fuck.
Well, I don't care.
But also at the same time, every moment is a reflective moment. Like everything that happens to you over your life is a moment for you to reflect and think about your intentions, because it's really hard to move intentionally with every decision or everything that you do. So it's always important to sometimes just switch off and just look back and be like, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? What can I do better? There's always an opportunity to be better.
Yeah, and I preach exactly that, but I also preach to us as a community, because if we're going to be a community and actually grow from it, like the biggest, to what you just said, it's like, let's not just look at these moments of people being canceled as like entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Like apply that mirror to yourself.
Exactly. And that's the important thing.
One day you're going to pick up your phone and it's going to be like, or you're going to pick up your phone in 10 years and someone will find a photo that you posted 2 years ago from now and be like, you shouldn't be here because I saw this. You know, it's like I'd like to think we're gonna be better. Like as you said, we're gonna be better from this. Like
definitely.
Bro, that's what I was saying. I was 12 tweeting Tyler the Creator lyrics, bro. Are you telling me 2 years from now you're gonna screenshot that shit and post it saying Sloan is misogynistic?
Real.
Because I said some shit about Tyler. I looked up to him, bro. Like you can't just be enjoying looking like, oh yeah, this guy's cancelled now. Let's all tweet about it. Yeah. It's funny. Like people enjoy seeing that shit
people
happen.
Who follow cancel culture, I feel they're just people who they don't have minds.
No, but it also like if someone is doing something bad, it also like helps. But at the same time, they don't take joy in it because
don't take
joy in like making someone feel bad. And that's what happens in a lot of African like narratives. There are many people who have seen other people doing good, and they're like, okay, you know what? Since you're doing good, I'm going to make you feel bad.
That's why Nigerian people do juju.
Nigerian people do loads of voodoo.
I think that I'm so happy we had this conversation because I feel like that was an elephant in the room for a minute. So I'm really happy that we got to talk about that. But I also will first-handedly say that, yeah, I'll back what Virgil says. The more you do, the more people will criticize you. So you have to like, depending on the level that you want to go to, that can knock you off every step. I've been under huge criticism even for building Homecoming. It's like, you know, but I have to keep going with what I believe is my purpose. You know?
We love you, Grace. We love you.
But you know, no, it's not even a sympathy thing. It's just like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Derailed, or I'm just gonna learn from that and carry on. And I think that you're going to do that that's all going to happen to every single one of you in your journey. And just remind yourself that, you know, it's bigger than what to do. That's just a, you know, part of my story. It's not the end point. But thank you, Virgil, for your honesty and openness there. I think we'll take a couple of questions from the audience, and everyone's saying, Motherland, you are very funny.
I'll keep you 100 always. 100, you feel me? Always.
With that being said, give us money.
Looking through the chat to find questions.
So someone said you spoke about how we can help each other through the diaspora and in Africa together. How will this actually happen? What is the actual steps of that? Because it's great to say a big statement, but how does that happen in reality?
The thing is, like I can't predict the future. I'm not a spirit. All I can do is play my part to like push the agenda forward. So I feel like what this whole conversation that we're having should be about, something should wake up in everybody's brains. And from this conversation, let's start doing things whereby we can have a conversation with somebody in the diaspora, whereby we can push forward a certain agenda, where we can push forward Africans and do things to just lift forward Africans in your everyday moves and your everyday decisions, really.
Just imagine if Virgil sends like loads of shoes to Africa, man. Like literally, when I was 16 in Lagos, imagine if he actually sent like shoes for me to skate when I was 16 in Lagos. my life would be different right now. Obviously, I was skating in Air Force Ones, but like imagine if like several people who are African actually keyed into our ideas, like literally the same way Alex and Grace did it. And that's the thing about helping other people out. Like literally, I'm in school now because of Grace. You understand? That's an African helping an African. Like that's how it's meant to be. Not just saying it, just like actually giving stuff, like actually showing it.
I don't know. I kind of feel two ways about that because like you can't just expect like
obviously you can't
like,
expect stuff.
You can't say that because you know what you do, but like if I'm being honest, I'll still skate in Air Force Ones, like regardless. If I don't have a shoe, I'll find a shoe.
Like you're saying, you still skate in Air Force Ones, but imagine if there was like a constant flow of stuff to where you were skating.
Sometimes the struggle makes you.
Yeah, the struggle makes you, but
you grow in a space of disadvantages. When you're in frustration and limitations, you just make pure magic. You think of creative ways to do it some other way. And that's why
one of the things, yeah, that's a good point. One of the things I'm doing right now, my design studio in London, I'm building a skate park in Ghana, in Accra, right?
Yes.
Because that is exactly what you said. I'm the type that's like, yo, I would give shoes. You know, I'm like Grace said, I'm at the level where like me sending a few shoes could actually be worse. Who's the kid that gets the shoes? You know, what does that create locally? What does that create? 10 pair of shoes, and I've created 200 pair that are like, you know, creating like different levels of like, oh, you have the, you know, it's like, I don't know, those shoes aren't I'd rather teach young kids in Ghana how to make some shoes that'll be the next Nike, maybe.
Yeah,
you're able to see that.
There's a responsibility. So my thought was like, all right, how can I foster a scene and make sure that multiple kids learn to skate or do some sort of initiatives that are, there's a little bit more thinking that I have to do to make it more universal.
We all have to do the thinking. We all have to do the thinking. It's not only our responsibility, it's all of our responsibility.
Yeah, but even before even doing the thinking, right? There's small processes you can do as well. Like literally what changed my life for me was seeing small things. It wasn't only just hearing about like I didn't just hear about Babe. I didn't just hear about Off-Whites. I wanted to see the shoes. In fact, seeing the shoes inspired me to actually be like, okay, this is actually sick. You feel me? Just about the physical as well. Bro. Before you teach, you have to also show the physical. It's like, okay, it's here, and okay, you can get to that level.
I won't cap it. If I'm being honest, if I get 10 pairs of shoes from Converse, which all my friends get a pair, bro. That's how you do it first.
All your friends are wearing Converse, and then all your friends are wondering, okay, why am I wearing Converse? And then before you know it, they're skating because they're wearing Converse.
Yeah.
Like footprints before you get there. It's like before Jesus Christ came out, it was John the Baptist. You feel me?
Yeah. There's the ripple effects from a small.
Can make everything bigger. Like, I know that's a struggle, but also remember, like, there's always a ripple in time and space.
Robin Hood was real, bro. Still, and I'll take from conversation.
Add something to this conversation. As a brand, as a daily paper, you know, like as the diaspora, we definitely are actively looking for ways to engage more with people, with creatives in Africa itself, and finding ways to work with photographers on the ground, work with stylists, work with models, work with like every brand has budget, every brand has campaigns that they have to do, and we prefer to do them in Africa with local African creatives, making the bridge shorter, travel more towards the continent. There's still this thing called passport inequality. For some, like we can travel a lot easier to Africa than the other way around, and I do believe that there is some sort of responsibility from the diaspora to actually take some steps in building those bridges.
Yeah, and giving back first and foremost. That's the thing that we need to do, either in education, mentorship, transparency. That's our responsibility that we carry.
I think that's totally true. And yeah, I think that one of the key questions I was going to say, though, and I think that we all need to think about this, and it's something that's happened since the beginning. Like, I've seen about 6 questions saying, so glad that you have at least one woman on this panel. How easy or difficult has it been for you, Ireti, to navigate the majority male space, especially in the African patriarchal environment?
Love you, Ireti.
Love you, Ireti. We love you, Grace, Ireti. You guys are real niggas. You guys are.
Love you, Grace. Ireti.
It's been I would say it's been difficult, but at the same time, I feel like as a woman, you just have to know that you have to believe in yourself, you have to be confident, and you have to believe in your boss. It's like, I go into, like, especially being into streetwear. Streetwear is seen as, oh, streetwear is for men or whatever, but it's just about being confident, honestly. Being confident in yourself. If you're going into a room and it's like, okay, like on this panel, for example, and it's 10 men or whatever, you just carry your own. You just have to be fully confident in who you are and what you're doing, know your stuff. And most importantly, just be confident, be authentic, be original. And, you know, things will happen for you. And yeah, but being a woman, man, shout out to all my women out there, all my Black women out there, you know, like, it's not easy. Everything is literally stacked against us, but, like, you know, we keep pushing and we're going to take over the world. So that's one period.
We did your back, Ireti. We did your back, Grace.
Grace is the only woman in this industry that I'll ever look at and be like, wow. Grace is the, like, for me, is the epitome of
Grace.
No man scares me. Grace scares me.
Yeah,
bro.
Grace actually scares
I'll
me.
slap
Like,
a guy,
literally,
bro.
Niggas don't scare me apart from Grace.
Niggas don't scare me. Grace scares me,
crazy.
bro. When I'm in the same room with her, trust me, when you put a woman at that position, she will stunt on you.
The energy is too strong. It's too amazing. It's too
Shout out to everybody in the comments, you know, shine out, they love me, women, all of that. Shout out to everybody.
Thanks, Motherland. I didn't pay them to say that. Secondly, I think that another interesting thing is, because we spoke a lot about platforming fashion or stuff, they're saying that there's obviously Lagos Fashion Week, Arise Fashion Week, etc. Do you feel that those platforms actually act to elevate African brands?
Yo, the slide out in Ghana, man.
Yo,
lights out in Ghana, man. Crazy.
It took the light.
We don't elevate, like, they don't elevate African brands enough. They don't. I feel like those platforms need to work a lot harder. I need to have a lot more viewpoints.
Usually what you have with, like, an Arise Fashion Week, for example, is that they'll drop a big check to get some international brands out there, and then they'll do nothing for the local brands. They will even have the local brands be changing in, like, the lobbies and shit, but then they have, like, the international brands with the hotel rooms and the 5-star service. So I think it's super important for, like, Fashion Week and shit to, like, really get on side and know what time it is. Like, the transfer of power.
Empower your own as well. Empower your own. Lift them up. Like, let them make their own stories, tell their own stories, build their own narratives, and tell them that they're beautiful and they're strong, you know? Like, a lot of African women.
Like, self-love and shit is super important, man. Like, again, on the Fashion Week shit, you be at Rise Fashion Week, and you have all the Nigerian models, like 200 models packed into, like, you know, a little room. And then you have all the foreign models that they brought from abroad in their own individual spots to be ready and chill for the runway. It's like, we can't keep doing things like that. I think it's super important to love what's actually from home. Black women, Black men, like, that's what's important. We can't be putting all these Western things on pedestals all the time anymore. It's just wow, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but that's why we're loving. That's why we're loving. That's why, wow, everybody has a sticker.
On gang.
Wait, what does the sticker say?
Warning, bitch. Warning.
Shout out Baque.
Wait, we're speaking about something. We're speaking about
shout out Baque, man.
But I agree with you, Vivendii. I think that when you do something in Nigeria, Ghana, Africa, you should platform what is at home and make sure you prioritize that versus only looking after people that are coming into the territory. I think that for me, that was something so key when we did Homecoming, and even just from the collaborations, making sure brands collaborated, making sure that every brand had their own space, making sure that, like, when we collaborate with anyone, that we make sure that they buy African brands? Do they make sure they do something to impact what is happening there? Also, like hierarchy and making sure that we don't have hierarchy with the show as a playlist, etc. But that's all I can say from my thing. There's still a lot more to do, but I feel like that's the kind of things that we have to start making sure happen, like, because you don't want to be like, we're being, you know, kind of used to paint the picture and we're not being, you know. So I wholeheartedly agree. Alex, with the next question.
Yeah, I think like one of the questions that was coming a lot as well was about like the resources and like how do you feel, you know, we can build the resources to produce in-house, and meaning like in Africa, and like what are the next steps to that, so we don't rely on the Western world.
I'd love to hear from you, Jomi, because you haven't answered that question.
So I think it's we can do it. We can, because Africa has a long history of textile. We've been doing loads of textiles in the past for thousands of years. We have dye pits, you know, we're very flamboyant with color and pattern and all that. So I think it's possible, but I think what happened was a lot of people didn't take on the textile industry and elevate it. So it's been left fallow. So we are now, I think it's possible. But also the thing about African design, which I want to press on, is that a lot of people, and I fell into the same trap, where we think African design is supposed to be clean, cut, you know, shaped in a certain way. So I think it's possible, but our own interpretation of design and color and pattern is totally different to the West. So I think it's possible. It's possible. It's hard. You know, we have infrastructural problems as well with electricity and you know, qualified tailors to do at a mass scale. Because I don't think, you know, we're still in the era like in the 1800s where people would get things bespoke. You know, like I want to go to a wedding, I can make it right. I don't go to like there's no Zara equivalent of getting an agbada, for example, which is like I call it the African tuxedo. So we still have that. We've not really industrialized our the way we don't mass produce stuff. For example, we're not in the culture of mass producing garments. You know, so I think it's possible. It's in our own way possible. Like we were doing in-house stuff for a long time. We had tailor in our shop, and that was going well. And you know, we got too much demand, and we're trying to scale, but that became a problem. So the African is looking at African design in a different way.
Thank you so much. And we just hit the 2-hour mark, 2 hours and 2 minutes. Wow, guys, that went. Everyone maybe, you know, and I think it's important for everyone to just maybe leave with one closing statement that they're taking away from this, and like what they're going to do, you know, from this conversation next. And then I'm going to do the closing statement. So go motherland.
One sentence.
One sentence. We can do one sentence, but we found this very, very sick.
I think at the end of the day, bro, everybody that's Nigerian or African or wherever, you know not to give a fuck. So don't give a fuck regardless. Till now, don't give a fuck. I still don't give a fuck, and I'll never give a fuck. So
and at the end
except
of the day,
it's about mounting, like us Africans.
At the end of the day, it's about finding out, like creating the new age cult. It's about creating a cult where everyone can actually join in. And the people in the African people, so then they join the cult, and that's what we stand for.
Vivendii.
Word. I mean, I think, man, big love to all my Nigerians worldwide, Africans worldwide, in the diaspora. And man, Vivendii sounds.
The game is crazy, man. The game is the fucking
The game is the game!
Ireti.
Yeah, just pretty much the same thing, man. Like I feel, as I think someone said something about, creating the African complex con, and that is what, the dream and my hopes for Street Souk, bringing all streetwear brands across the whole of Africa together. As someone was saying earlier, like we have the largest population of the youth in Africa. They're over how many? Like, I don't know the numbers, but if we can get the whole of Africa on our backs, the whole of Africa pioneering this streetwear movement, we don't need the Western world. They're gonna want to come to us. That's what they did in Japan, that's what they did in Asia. It was like the Japanese people weren't coming to England like, oh, come and wear Japanese streetwear. Everybody else was just trying to go over there to see what, Y3 was doing, to see what all those guys are doing. So that's just what I feel like. That's how Africa, we have to do it. We have the prints, we have the culture, most importantly, we have the authenticity, we have everything we need. Obviously, resources not as much, but we're gonna make it work, man. So it's just an Africa thing. That's what I'm gonna leave it as.
Thank you. Ciesay?
Yeah, I just want to say, it was great, talking to everyone and getting to know more about you guys. I think now moving forward, some of you may agree, some of you may not, but I think now moving forward that we need to get rid of the illusion of unity and actual be unified. And if everyone wants to link up and do something, we should just fucking not feel everyone too cool or some guy might be bigger than the other, so that's all I want to say.
Real.
Free youth.
We just want everyone here to know that we are kings and queens in our own country. Our own country, we do ECGs fucking up our life.
Sounds like Tyler the Creator.
They lost the light. It's kind to me.
Send it by DM.
Virgil.
Nah, just to piggyback what Ciesay said, he said it better than I could say it myself. Like, let's paint the picture of the future we want. Like coming out of 2020, it's literally whatever we're on is what it's going to be. My phone number, like hit Grace, hit me direct. Like Complex Con in Africa, we can make that happen next year. Shoes to Ghana, shoes to Nigeria, we can make that happen.
We need that Lucien Clark though.
Yeah, motherland shoes.
We need that Lucien Clark.
Yeah, who said that?
Me, send us shoes.
Yeah, no. Sossah is I got hip to Motherland through Sossah. So you got the plug. Send the shoe sizes if that's what it is. Whatever we need, we're gonna
Say less.
Okay. Daily Paper.
Yo, thank you guys for this amazing panel. It was really nice to speak to everyone here and hear all your perspectives. Learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys relatively soon.
Yeah, let's link up in any African country. Let's build from here.
Yeah.
And uplift each other.
It's like top of the year, we're doing a big pop-up store in Ghana. So Free the Youth, you already know. And looking forward to see everybody there.
I'll pull up.
Virgil, we'd love to see you there in Ghana as well.
Yeah, do this pop-up.
Okay, cool. December.
There's gonna be some crazy long. I'm gonna start a group probably.
That WhatsApp
that should grow.
Okay.
Jomi, last but not least, Jomi, we haven't been able to see your face, but your words have been so powerful. What do you to say?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
What's your last statement?
Right. Travel, explore Africa. It was lovely with chatting with everyone, exchanging ideas. Stay safe. Ja Rastafari.
Ja Rastafari.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining this. It's been one of the best panels that I've ever been on, or discussions I've ever had, because I care about it. I started in streetwear. Anyone that truly knows me knows that that's where I was birthed, pre-Hype Beast. So it's important to me, and I think that Africa does have the kind of space and the time to rebirth what streetwear is, because they have a narrative and authenticity that the world hasn't seen. So that will be your USP. And you have a hunger and a drive that nobody else on the planet has. And I can talk about, not Vivendii, I'm not typecasting Africa. I can talk about Nigeria. That one, we know we're going to make it happen. But as Virgil was saying about building a skate park. We're trying to build a skate park too. Let's double up. Let's just do what we say. My job is to hold everyone responsible for what they say. You say it. I said I was going to do something, and I've done it. You say you're going to do it. You're going to do it. You got me on your back, and I think that collectively we can start seeing some change and start building together. But don't be afraid to ask. I think that's a really important thing. Don't be afraid to ask for that thing that's going to help you get to the next step, because that person was probably waiting for that to happen. So just make sure that you stay authentic, stay you, build your own narrative. Don't feel like there's any hurry. Think pace everything. So yeah, just take your time and do what you think's right. And everyone's got your back. And I'm talking about that in terms of, a lot of people have said, how come we just focus on Nigeria? We have to start somewhere. I wish when I started Homecoming, it was let's let everyone just do their own ones in their own countries, and they just take the formula. It's almost like a book. Take it and do it in your own space. But you might also want to do your own thing in your own space. So you don't have to do that. But it has to start somewhere, and we started something somewhere, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all. I'm going to write a recap about I did ask Virgil. Is he piggybacked off Ciesay?
Oh.
And he's going to build a he told us earlier. And he's also going to give back the But I think that we just need to make sure that we have some direct things that people can follow. So this panel is going to live online, but we're also going to summarize some of the things and get people to write about some of the things that we've discussed, in case people need some starters. So yeah, just want to say thank you. Anything to add?
Yeah, I think once Grace said, and she said pretty much everything here, so it's not that much to add. But yeah, the most important thing is unity as a community. How can we all support each other, continuing exploring new ways of collaborating, support each other, go to each other's place. I think one of the key things here has been all about all of us being keen to go in different places and meet different people, and each time kind of the after effect of that is growing as a person, and each person to evolve in new spaces and inspire the next generation. So let's keep doing that together and have fun. All of that.
Two things: have fun, and if you feel like everything you've said, you're I wish I could do that. Dream. Never stop dreaming, because that is what keeps you alive. Everyone started from nothing. I can tell you, everyone on this panel started from nothing. So you just have to stay dreaming and stay having fun and stay inspired. But on that note, I think we're going to end this. But
yes, Thirsty.
I love you, Alex. I love you.
I love you, Alex. Call me, Alex. Call me, Alex. Please. Call me,
Steve,
Steve, guys. Bye.